Travel and Things in association with Sun Destinations, iconic destinations with amazing experiences, present In Conversation With. I am your host, David Batsoffen, and my guest today is, hey, it's that time of the year. Back in the day when I was growing up, it was Beano and all those sort of annuals, but now it's Jonathan Shapiro, Zapiro, with his brand new Ram Apocalypse Now. Jonathan, good morning. Welcome to you. You have no idea how long I had to practice that word.
I know it's funny. It sort of trips off my tongue, but I see other people, or I hear other people have a little harder time saying it.
Tell me about Ramapocalypse.
Ramapocalypse, yeah.
I see what it is. I love the smell of immunity in the morning. We'll go through some of the cartoons in the book. I see it ends in September. Well, the final cartoon is from September, so it's very relevant at the moment. And I think that preempts the question, why nothing about what happened on October 7th? Well, because October 7th hadn't started when you finished the book. That's for next year.
That's correct. That's right. And I just also want to say that the image that you have up at the moment is the cartoon from which I developed the book cover, because that's not the book cover that's up there. That is the cartoon that's in the book where Vladimir Putin was about to we looked like we were going to give him diplomatic immunity to come to the BRICS summit. I mean, that was this long discussion because the ICC had these charges out against him. And
so there's the actual cover.
He says, I love the smell of immunity in the morning, but that's the actual book cover was developed out of that. Yes.
Okay, so there we go. Just to prove that I have a copy in my possession. Yeah. I love the blurb that came with it, Jonathan. And if I may refer to it, you say here, for a cartoonist, South Africa is a gift that keeps on giving. And I think we've had this conversation every year that you and I get to this particular point, with the exception of 21 and 20 and 21. But you wake up every morning and you go, my work is done, basically. All I've got to do is transfer it from radio, from the ether.
And every year I have to disabuse you of that notion. Every time, I know how many times have we done this twice, but and you and other people. I blame Peter Dirk Ace for this, because Peter, who I dearly love, but he has said the government writes my material. In the apartheid era, they wrote it, and now the new government writes my material. He's being like sort of congenially disingenuous, if you want to call it. He's basically not saying how much work one has to do to actually work with this with stuff. But occasionally a stage satirist like Peter can get out there and say, I just want to read you this thing from the Government Gazette, and then everybody kind of pisses themselves with laughter because it is so funny. But I can't actually do that in cartoons, so I don't even have that occasional luxury. You have to actually process it and in a way make it kind of more strange than the already strange reality. Yeah.
You talk about stepping up on stage and reading from something. If you read our Constitution, buried in that book, it says, I have the right not to be robbed in my own house. Now, I don't know that if burglars were to break in and you said, stop, this is against the Constitution, I will take you to the Constitutional Court, whether it would work at all in that given circumstance.
Wow. In those words, or almost in the, I mean, wow.
Almost in those words. I'm paraphrasing to an extent. I have the book somewhere in my in my study here, but I can't grab it immediately.
Yeah.
So let's take a wander through this particular book this year, Jonathan, and let's look at some of the cartoons. This is the final one in the book, and it's obvious for all the obvious reasons.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was one that sort of suggested itself to me very quickly when, eventually, so the BRICS thing eventually happens without Putin. He doesn't pitch up for the BRICS because them either he said, listen, are you guys gonna actually arrest me? And they said, no, we won't, but it's going to be a hell of an embarrassing situation. So he stays behind, and he's now by this stage kind of running out of our caption in the book. I do the captions with Mike Wills. We're saying he's running out of allies, and he's running out of weaponry for his war that we call some sort of that South Africa doesn't really think of as a war, but or thinks of as something started by NATO or whatever. But anyway, he gets Kim Jong-un to come to Russia, and Kim Jong-un gets intelligence out of it, and he's going to get weaponry, and from this somebody perhaps even more of a pariah than Putin as Kim Jong-un. So this little piece of text just immediately, I was going to say, is that a ballistic missile in your pocket, or are you just pleased to see me? But that it didn't work for a ballistic missile, and everybody knows where it was Mae West. Everyone knows that.
Correct.
Is that a gun in your pocket, or are you just pleased to see me? Yeah. So that's how that one happened.
Now, this particular word, have you had to explain it to your foreign readers? Because fokol, we know what it means. And I think a lot of the cartoonists have had an absolute blast with this word. They really and truly have.
Sure. I mean, every cartoonist, every satirist, I mean, when the Minister of Defense goes to Parliament and in a fit of pique says, what are you, everyone's saying what we loaded on, and we loaded fokol. She said, we loaded fokol on the Lady R. She said that in Parliament. I mean, of course, that's going to be a cartoon. And so I played with what exactly is fokol. So I had these kind of fokol missiles, could be small arms, could be missiles, whatever. And in a way, even though there's probably less evidence that it was anything big like missiles or even necessarily small arms, until they show us the report, we're going to keep saying, well, it could be. So
like what was on the Helderberg? Like what was on the Helderberg? Yeah,
exactly. I mean, I do think there was weaponry of some sort on the Helderberg. I think it is very possible. Yeah.
The interesting thing about this particular cartoon for me, Jonathan, is that we tend to, how easily we forget. This was huge at the time. And then, like everything else, it's either overtaken by something even worse, or it literally gets swept under the proverbial carpet, and nobody even worries about it anymore. Nothing was done about this. People, the cronies and the cadres made a fortune, and the issue was not resolved. And this is the saddest thing, I believe, is that these cartoons come up, and then there's no closure.
I agree with you, David. I absolutely agree. I mean, this is at the time, this seemed like a huge thing. And when I thought of love in the time of cholera, and then thought, well, what is it? It's actually love of mammon. And and some minister actually used mammon in a speech, and not. It was the most amazing thing about that was that if I remember, was not sort of being critical of colleagues and fellow cadres who were sort of getting all these kickbacks and who are corrupt. But it was some other sort of self-righteous use of the word mammon. But I thought this is essentially what this is: love of mammon in the time of cholera. The idolatry and riches and greed, and just not thinking about the poor and the people who are sick, and that, exactly as you say, the cronies. Well, first of all, it's the neglect that results in something like cholera, which should be eradicated. It results in cholera happening. And then the people, it's just as in COVID. Okay, they didn't cause COVID here, but whereas the neglect caused the cholera. But then you get people who are going to be so absolutely heartless that they profit off it instead of trying to solve it.
Like the cigarettes and certain ministers. But we'll leave that one alone. This I love because he's got that Shabir Sheikh chronic illness, you know. I'm terribly sick. I can't go to jail, but I can hop on a first-class flight. There's no flying economy for Jay-Z. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, and the thing is that the thing to do with the cartoon, like what I try and do with a cartoon here is that by this time, when it was announced that Zuma wasn't around, at the very time when there was a judgment saying that he may have to go to jail, and there's where's Zuma? Oh, he's gone for medical treatment to Russia, and by this time everybody knows the Shabir Sheikh thing, the terminal illness. Everyone knows that his legal team has said that he's got some sort of terminal condition, and so like I thought. I had a little flash with the word terminal, and you just by putting that at the top, Zuma's terminal condition, and then people laugh when they see terminal A, terminal B, terminal C. But the third one of those terms, I mean, okay, so Moscow with Putin is terminal A, Dubai with the Duzani, but the third one, Vanuatu with the Guptas. I mean, some people don't remember or realize that as funny as Vanuatu is, and I challenge you to find it on the map. I mean, I challenge anyone, any South African, to find it. It's the most remote place in the world, somewhere in the Pacific. Find Vanuatu on the map and put a dot there. The Guptas actually have become citizens of Vanuatu. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
It's true.
It's like, where is Guam? They become Guamites or Guamidians.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
I think I saw them at the cricket last night. I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
Now, funny enough, with this cartoon, the new Minister of Electricity, well, he's not new anymore, has been given extra powers because our erstwhile president has said that he needs to resolve the issues of load shedding. And in order to do that, he'll get extra powers. I don't think this man does a thing. He sits behind a desk, locked in an office, chatting to the man who turns the switch on and off. And that's it. Day done. Can go home, have a Johnny Walker blue, black, red, green, or indifferent, and relax, believing that he's doing something to earn the money that he's being paid.
Did you, I mean, you used the word powers, and I thought you were going to link that to the cartoon itself, because for me, when I saw that the debate was about the powers of the new minister, I mean, this cartoon, as you often will see a little acknowledgement in my cartoons, there's a thanks to Toby S. Everybody knows who Toby S is. That's Toby Shafshak. So Toby kind of alerted me to he said when the new ministry was created, he said, I mean, because everyone thought it was kind of odd. We've now got a minister of electricity. And Toby said, geez, that sounds like something out of Harry Potter, like the Ministry of Magic. So then I said, fantastic, I'm going to do that. So that's how, you know, the phone rings at Hogwarts. Professor Dumbledore, a Muggle president, is asking if the Ministry of Magic can teach his new Minister of Electricity how to create electricity out of nothing. And then Illuminatio, you know, that's the spell.
Still nothing.
Still nothing. And then this wasn't Ramaphosa yet, because we didn't know yet who was going to be. So this was a sort of generic face at the time when I did this. And then it became, I love his nickname. I mean, his name is Josiense, but I like Sputler Ramaphosa. So I draw him now as well with this little wizard's hat that I gave. I gave the new minister in the
new minister. It's true, because every Monday morning, or sometimes every day of the week, we get messages saying new load shedding. You know, it's been resolved. It hasn't been resolved. Perhaps it will be resolved. And maybe we should have, you know, just give him a magic wand rather than give him any sort of other power.
I mean, yeah, exactly. More powers, yes.
Yeah, this I love, because he's definitely that. And he must not give us that, my fellow South Africans, anymore. we've been there, we've done that, we've listened to the BS. We've not been allowed to buy open-toed shoes. We've not been allowed to buy a cigarette. I still don't understand. Going back to 2020 with COVID, when we went into that first summer, you weren't allowed to buy open-toed shoes. Why? COVID wasn't spread through your feet. I've never understood.
I mean, no, nobody understood that. The hot food, cold food, the open-toed sandals and whatever, and the different. I don't know. It was the most crazy situation where all these little fiefdoms that were run by different ministers somehow got a chance to sort of fight it out and carve their little niche. And really absurd. But in a sense, what it represented is this I hate to use the word inept for Cyril Ramaphosa. He's a very capable person. He's a very intelligent person, but he's the most reluctant president we've ever had. He's not prepared to actually get out there and say, hey, I'm actually president. I'm supposed to be running this country. I'm going to do something. I mean, this Ramapantha character I developed for him when he came in with the New Dawn. It was the beginning of the Black Panther, the great Black Panther movie, and the first one and the second one. But the first movie, so I had him as this Ramapantha character, but he always had this big, strong body and these spindly little legs, because we weren't really sure if he's, what kind of superhero is he going to be? And
it's the same now with the end of the Rugby World Cup. When he leapt onto the podium faster than the rugby players did, then came back to South Africa and did the usual. There will be a family meeting, which didn't happen straight away. And then he used the family meeting to praise every single person in his cabinet for doing stuff that they'd never done. And then right in the last 30 seconds, when there'll be a public holiday on the 15th of December. Thank you and good night. God bless South Africa. And he was gone.
I know. And that's really what. So, I mean, this cartoon, that one in action figure could have been done anytime over the last couple of years.
Yeah. And this, I think, is rather apt because I don't want to call them learners, because many of them don't learn anything. Students, as they were in our days, or school children, school semi-adults, who knows, is ongoing at the moment. And already they are catching people who are cheating, but they don't refer to it as cheating anymore. They've got new terminology now to make it less angry, less aggressive, and more woke. You can't say somebody's been cheating. You've got to say they've been using equipment that wasn't, I don't know, validated by the invigilator or some such garbage.
Some of this cartoon, of course, I mean, and you're touching on issues that aren't really even part of this, part of this cartoon. In a sense, this is a recent one. This is not in the annual. This is more recent because we are now, it's Monday after registration weekend. And that's what sparked this. I thought it's registration weekend, but it's also matric exams. So I thought, well, let me spin that matric exam, just turn it on its head. Yeah. And it is a matric exam, but they're like, this is what's going to be happening over this registration weekend and the next number of months. The young people of this country who are registering as first-time voters are going to be, so the matriculants are kind of grilling him. So that's the matric exam. And they're grilling in jobs, Eskom, economy, pit, toilets, all that stuff.
Why should we vote you?
Yeah, we vote for you.
True enough.
That's where I went with that one. Yeah.
Here's another one. There's some cartoons that when I'm paging through the book, I've seen the majority of your cartoons when they come out in the Daily Maverick. But then there are some like this that made me guffaw, because given half a chance, this man would claim all of those for some reason or another, and then he would go to court about each and every one and spin it until he dies, and then his lawyers will continue after he's in the grave.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, I just thought, there seemed to be a way, there seemed to be a reason to kind of make an ironic victory for Jacob Zuma, with a, obviously a little nudge and a wink to the reader, who's saying, seriously, as we look at that and say, no, he's actually claimed, the terminal illness nonsense, and then the Novichok poisoning, and that was a claim that he was poisoned with Novichok by wife number 3. So that, then the chemistry, etc. Each one, every single thing you can, the literature, the physics, and then peace. I just thought I would do ha ha ha.
So now let's bring Charles in, because you don't limit yourself, and rightly so. You don't limit yourself to locals. You've got Donald Trump, who's going to fight his 2025 election from a prison cell. He may still be in court, but he will continue to claim that he is the best, the biggest, the most wonderful. And now poor old Charles, heavy sits the crown. Or not so heavy in this case, because the cologne, we've taken back our jewels.
Yeah, for me, when you see these giant events, especially the Brits, but not only the Brits, other people stage, but nobody does it quite like them.
Correct.
With all the pomp and ceremony and all of that stuff. And then within these guys, I want to look past all those uniforms and all the gold stuff and the whatever, and I want to just like stick a little knife in and twist it. And the Archbishop of Canterbury, he's quite a good guy himself. I mean, he's quite a good guy, but I just thought that moment as he puts the crown on, I zoomed in. The guests from the colonies took their stolen jewels back, and all the jewels come from South Africa and India, basically, what's in that crown. And the next thing was to try and get close enough and then try and find a graphic way for the reader to be able to see immediately, hey, there's like all this, you're seeing through that crown, there's like nothing there, and it's all vaporized. Because imagine that, if that's the kind of the what if thing in cartooning. Imagine if the guests actually said, hey, I'll take that. That goes back to with me. I'll take that, goes back to South Africa.
Like when we were children, Jonathan, and you got a party pack when you went home. Remember those little boxes that normally contained a Mari biscuit and some sweets and some, I don't know, sugary stuff to keep you going and keep your parents, mad when you got home. We could have taken the crown jewels. What I did forget to mention while we were looking at the cartoon is that terminal cartoon, because before we started chatting, last night, in fact, I sent you a text going, what is your favorite cartoon in the book? And you came back and you said that terminal A, B, and C one is. So now we know. It's on page 92, people, if you want to know. And it was published in the Daily Maverick on the 20th of July, 2023. Now, a cartoon annual, for want of a better word, well, it's not want of a better word, it is an annual. It comes out every year. Zapiro puts them out, and it's published by Jacana. It wouldn't be an annual without the EFF. You just can't do it. And this is one of them.
Of course. The EFF, this particular year, there were, I think the two things were the shutdown and their 10th birthday. The two things that I focused on. I did a couple around their supposed shutdown. And I just thought, well, this was a nice thing to do, to show them like, with their usual rhetoric and the bullhorn and the whatever. But the other shutdown is that they're trying to keep it they're trying to shut down anything that the media say or anybody else says about the corruption. And there's loads of evidence, the Limpopo contracts, of course, the tax fraud and the VBS millions.
I just love it when Julia said, I will march with you to Pretoria, and then was seen on the back of a truck, because he wasn't marching anyway.
Sort of hypocrisy is the big thing with these guys.
Now here's another one. I had to include this, Jonathan. I just had to, because Rob Hersov came on the scene screaming and shouting that he knew exactly how to save South Africa, and then, much like the cholera, he vanished. I don't know where he's gone. Does anybody care?
He crops up here and there. He crops up. I mean, every time he crops up, I see him stuff periodically. And but for a while I was seeing a lot. And you know, he acts as if he's some kind of great savior of everyone and of this country. You know, I mean,
Right.
it's outrageous. He comes from a sort of a billionaire background, but I think he's kind of lost most of his billions. He still wants to tout himself as a billionaire and tout himself as a political guru and as a savior of South Africa. And to me, it is just a bad smell, which is what I kind of showed in that drawing.
So to prove this does exist on my desk, the book, as I said earlier, because we're coming to the end of our chat, and I know you've had an incredibly busy weekend in Joburg. If this was Saturday, you were there, and if this was Sunday, I don't know where you're going to be on Monday, and then back to Cape Town on Tuesday. The book published by Jacana is available now, and it makes a great Christmas gift for either friends, family, or yourself. There's no reason for you not to buy it for your own shelf.
Thanks, David. Thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, we used to always get the Giles books when I was a kid, and in these recent years, you know, people have said to me, now we can get you your book and your annual, and I love following in the footsteps of Giles. I grew up with Giles, and yeah, no, it feels like a special thing for me to be able to produce this every year.
Jonathan, are you now recognized? You know, it's the same. Well, it's not the same, but as a radio broadcaster, unless you're talking, people don't know your face. One guy bested me in a queue at a post office because he said his name was Richard. I'll never forget it. He said, "You're David Batsoffen from Talk Radio 702." I said, "How do you know?" He said, "I listen to you every night." But that aside, do people stop you in the street? You get on a plane, people go, "Hang on a second, you look very familiar. Why don't you just sign a napkin for me or draw me a cartoon?"
You know, unlike I mentioned Peter Dirk Ace earlier, but I mean, whether you're talking sort of Trevor Noah or Mark Lottering, or you know, people who are performers and satirists, you know, they are known everywhere by everyone, and their faces are absolutely known. With someone like me who does sort of periodic media here and there, and my picture appears in something, and I get involved in some controversy or another, which happens relatively often. But then suddenly some people see my face. So yeah, every now and then I'm walking down the street, or as you say, getting on a plane, or an airport official, or a whatever, and they say, "Aren't you that?" I've had people say, "Aren't you that guy?"
Which guy? Be specific.
Which guy? And they said, "That guy with the shower," or "that guy with whatever." You know, I have all that, and then I get occasionally recognized at a concert or something. So I feel like I'm completely incognito, and then in the most strange circumstances, and sometimes not even in this country, I get recognized. Yeah.
Often overseas, older actors have turned to doing voice messages for people's phones. You know, like, "Hi, this is William Shatner, and I just, you know," or "Happy birthday, Bob Smith," from William Shatner. Have you ever thought of doing cartoons on commission for people, sort of a Zapiro cartoon that says "Happy birthday to," or something like that?
Don't give people ideas, please.
I want to, Jonathan, if this comes up and I find out that you started a sideline business, you'll be hearing from my attorney.
I used to do that. I used to do that many, many, many years ago when I was starting out, and I love doing it. But I definitely don't have the opportunity to do that anymore.
We're almost done. Thank you so very much for taking time out of a hectic schedule to chat with me. Time has just zipped by. Oh, I've lost him, but it doesn't matter. The book, Zapiro, Apocalypse Now. It's Jonathan's cartoons from the Daily Maverick, and it's published by Jacana. My thanks to him and Janine Daniel for putting this together. And go out, buy yourself a copy, buy it for you, buy it for family, buy it for friends. My name is David Batsoffen. This has been In Conversation With.